Hey, what's up, guys? Prepping that here with Bob. And as you know, I have practiced martial arts my whole life and became a Krav Maga instructor in Southern California. But I was missing one of the building blocks of martial arts, and that was grappling. I have been studying Jiu-Jitsu now for 4 months, and yesterday we had the honor and the pleasure of having William Tackett in our local gym come and do a seminar, and he encouraged us to video everything. So I got the whole seminar, all the techniques. It was amazing. We all loved it. And here I'm sharing it with you. If you're a Jiu-Jitsu enthusiast, I hope you enjoy. And without any further ado, I'll leave you with William Tackett.
Legs, it's not only like exhausting, but it requires a lot of athleticism and sometimes has low benefit and low reward. Because if I shoot him really low, right, like maybe I get a takedown, maybe I get him down, but I'm so low on his body, like the fact that he can start scrambling back up and me not holding him down is really high. Right, so if I take him down with something like upper body, I maybe can get behind him and take his back, but I also land chest to chest. So if I land chest to chest, I have a much better chance of like keeping him pinned on the ground rather than him just bouncing back up. So I like underhooks a lot. If I don't have underhooks, then I'm looking for overhooks and maybe looking to get kind of back center and look for underhooks again. But underhooks are like my favorite thing to do from standing. As of late, anytime I can get an underhook, like I'm close to a body lock. If I have an underhook, I'm close to a front headlock. And I'm also close to get behind it, right? So for me, underhooks are super important and work really well for jiu-jitsu. So I'm gonna show some of my favorite entries to get to my underhook. I like to kind of maintain distance, and just remember whenever you're wrestling, don't really reach with your lead hand, okay? A lot of guys in jiu-jitsu come from judo and come from a gi background. So a lot of guys kind of stand upright and they look to tie up, right? So they kind of do the same thing in no-gi, right? And this is not great from like a competitive wrestling standpoint. If you try to do this against a good wrestler, he's gonna snatch your lead leg pretty much every time, right? So it's important to do something called down blocking. So if he would just shoot on my lead leg, I have something called a down block that I can kind of stuff him and sprawl and keep him from getting to my leg. So if I'm reaching with my lead arm, I'm kind of removing my down block and giving him a path to my lead leg. So when we reach with your rear arm, okay? We're gonna down block with our lead arm, which is kind of basically just holstering your elbow and your hip and just keeping your hand low. And then our rear arm can reach, because if he reaches to my rear leg, it's a pretty far reach for him. I'm probably gonna sprawl out of it and get back to a good position. And if he does shoot to that lead leg, again, I have either an underhook option to peel him up, or I could kind of sprawl off that down block. So when we do reach, I like to kind of maintain distance and just kind of check right at his collarbone to see how close I am, and kind of move around from here. And my stance, I'm not too high where my back is straight. My back is slightly hinged to where my head is kind of right over my toe. Pulling that right down and getting the...
Yeah, just like where you're cupping.
So when I pull his head down, I just want to get my chest on top of his shoulders and his neck. Then I hold his chin. And the way I like to do chin strap, I don't do like traditional chin strap where guys like hold their actual chin. This is not the worst, but it's kind of hard to pull. It just slides off the chin, right? So if you want a good snapping grip, you want to kind of grip more of their esophagus and their upper jaw here, because then now what you're gonna have, if he's sitting here, see this lever I have here, pull on his head, rather than if I'm here, I'm just gonna slide up his face, right? But if I'm pulling on that part, so if I'm cupping his throat and his jaw, then I can kind of pull and move along the mat. So that's why when I do snap him down, I wanna get my hand there. So that way I can snap him again down to his knees, because I have that good grip on the back of his, or on the other side of his throat. Now I'm not using my thumb. I'm not going like that choke that you'll see guys do sometimes in ABCC. I'm just holding like a monkey grip, okay? And then now that's when you can pull. And sometimes you might pull him and jack him up and get that hip, and then you hip switch, elbow closes, and you turn him down. Back foot posts, keep myself from falling, and I switch my legs, head to the mat. And then now you can really secure position from there. Okay? Any questions? Here, you guys are doing great. Just keep that head in. Still a few people head up, trying to like look and see what you're doing. Yeah. Don't even worry about it. You don't need to see what you're doing. Put your head in good position, drive into him, pull him down, and then now you can see what you're doing. Okay? One more thing I want to add. Whenever you bring them up against the hip, don't try to start bringing your hips into their hips while this hand's all loose over here. Keep everything tight. When I'm in front headlock, I even like to have his head kind of underneath me here. I don't like getting way out here. This is where you can still get taken down. He can reshoot and get to his hips underneath me, and I can start getting taken down. Yeah, I have the chin whip and I can still kind of stop him from here, but it's not ideal. If I keep his head underneath me, elbow closed the whole time, he's never taken me down from here. The same thing goes from here. My elbows close from the start. When I bring my hips to his, the tension should already be building. So don't like keep everything loose to get here and then try to curl. So just keep that in mind. Once we get them down, so as I take them down and we land here, okay? There's a few things you can do. I even submit people from here sometimes, just with the chin strap. If you have your pinky finger underneath their chin, you should be able to choke them. If your pinky finger slides out and you're just holding their chin, it's gonna be harder to do that. So make sure your whole hand is under their chin, and then you can go for this choke. So what I'm gonna do is my hand that was an underhook on the hip is gonna go to the shoulder, okay? And then now I'm gonna push off my toes to get my head to the mat, and I'm gonna start to turn and pick my head off the ground as I pull my elbow to my own hip to this direction, and I pull the shoulder to this direction. So I'm pulling them in opposite directions like this, so it should be like really stretching out his neck. It can be a neck crank, but if you have the good positioning with your hand, with putting all your weight on him, you can choke him here too. So as long as you have a good chin strap or like jugular strap, then they should be pretty strong. Just don't, like if you have a regular chin strap, don't just be ripping on it from here unless you don't like the guy, because it's just gonna be neck crank, okay? So that's kind of a finish. I want you guys to practice. Just keep your head low on the mat until you get the grips that you want, and then you can start pulling their head off the floor as your head comes up. Close your elbow, pull in opposite directions with both your hands, and you should get a finish from there. If you guys can't get the finish, just hold it. Put a lot of pressure on them from here. The nice thing about pulling their head off the ground is he can't bridge. Look how high you can bridge from here. Look how high you can bridge now. Right? So I should be able to really stick him from here, get my points. In ADTC, at takedown to side control is 5 points, right? Better than 2. So if we can stick him from here and just hold him, we're up 5 points, and he's really kind of screwed. I'm choking him, making him really uncomfortable. When I'm ready to move on, you can just release their head. You already have an underhook, and you now already have a crossface. Lock your hands, and then now we can put our head on the mat. Now, whenever you put your head on the mat, don't just go here for your crossface. I want your shoulder to make him look away. So I want like this. See, I'm able to like turn his head with my shoulder. Now he can't turn and shrimp to face me. So if you guys understand basic principles of escaping, they're gonna turn and face you to get their hips out and knee in, right? It's gonna be really hard for him to get his hips out and knee in if he can't turn and face me, right? It's gonna be really hard for him to face me to get his knee in. So if he looks at me, he can get on the side and he can get out. So whenever I release that head from the chin strap and I get my crossface, use your shoulder to turn his face and put your forehead on the mat. And then now is we have a really hard time turning and facing you, and we can start to set up our other attacks, okay? So one more time. When you guys get the collar tie, you get your underhook, head comes down. If you need to push into them, you can. Then pull, get the head down. Elbow is closed, so his head's underneath me rather than way out here, right? Now, when I jack him up, I get hit. My elbow's already close. Hip goes to his head. You can see he starts to get taken down. From here, I get his shoulder, and I put my head on the mat and find a base. Maybe adjust my chin strap if needed. So to pick his head off the ground and pull in opposite directions to get my choke. If not, I just kind of settle from here, wait for my points, then I can release his head, lock a gable grip, use my shoulder, turn his face, and then turn to my knees and put my forehead on the mat to keep him looking away. Okay? You guys got it? Let's get it. 1, 2, 3. Never choke that elbow. Choke him, so I release the crossface, or release to the crossface. Now I start turning his face, okay? Notice my elbow is off the floor right now. That means my crossface is pretty loose, and I have to pick my elbow up to turn his face. So we're gonna do some adjustments, okay? I'm gonna take my hands, I'm gonna put them alongside the mat, and everyone knows the spider walking thing, right? Wing your elbow, you spider walk. We're gonna do that with both of our arms, okay? In opposite directions, because I'm gonna try to close the distance between his shoulder and his ear. So when I'm here, I'm gonna spider walk my hands in opposite directions. See how I close that space off? So he was here, now he's got no space there, right? And it's important which hand goes over which, because if you put the wrong hand over, you're not gonna be able to grab their armpit. So if I go kind of like this hand over, his armpit's not really there, but if I go this hand, then now my hand's under and I can grab his armpit. So cross-facing hand is gonna go under, and then the underhooking arm is over. So you guys will feel which one's right and which one's wrong. You just need a few reps first. So we're here, walk my hands in opposite directions, palm rotates up, and I get a grip in his armpit, okay? Now, I'm gonna pull my elbow back to my knee, and I'm gonna split my stance, and I'm gonna sprawl. So I can put a lot of pressure here, and notice my elbow doesn't really come off the ground much. And to be honest, I've actually choked a lot of people unconscious in training with this. Not even arm triangle, nothing, right?
Like right here, right?
Well, honestly, I like it right over your face because if it's under your neck, you can turn and face me, right? You can lift your, yeah, so you turn and face. So one right over your face, and I just sprawl from here. And like, we'll just kind of wait and see if he has to tap or not. But he's gonna have to tap, right? He's gonna go out. Brutal. It's basically a bond glue choke with one arm. But what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get a reaction. So most of the time you're not going to choke him from here, but you will get a reaction out of this arm, and it's going to get us to our choke. So once we get this bundle, get the armpit, don't forget to pull back, because if you're way over here and you're leaning over your hips, is where you get rolled. So pull everything back and sprawl. What's going to happen is he's going to freak out, he's going to start framing us really hard, and then we can push his arm out. Now look where we're at, we're on our arm triangle, okay? Which is going to lead into our back take. But for right now, just lock your hands, put your head on the mat, knee across their hip, laces down, and then settle in the mat, okay? So one more time, we're here in side control. We walk their ear and their shoulder together, palm rotates up to get the armpit, pull elbow back to my knee, and they'll start sprawling here, okay? I like to kind of just look towards their feet and sprawl. He's gonna freak out, push his arm out of the way, and don't just go as soon as he freaks out either. Like, really make him suffer under here. I even like to drive back into that frame where he really pushes back into me, and then I can kind of drive back, and then as he pushes back, I can kind of move out of the way, and it kind of springs that frame up and makes it easier for me to push it out of the way. Now, if I'm looking into it, you know, like looking at his face, see how it's like really uncomfortable in my throat? If I look at his feet, the frame is now kind of on the back side of my ear and neck. I can do this all day, okay? So bundle everything up, sprawl, he's gonna push back into us, and I check it out of the way because I have this hand free now, right? Now I can block the hip if I need, laces over as I cross them out, and then we'll just settle with a gable grip, and we'll go for our back take next, okay? Any questions?
Awesome.
Can I see that once? I just want to see your hips in the sprawl.
For sure. So I bundle everything up here, get that armpit, pull my elbow back to my knee, and I kind of post and sprawl, my hips down, and see I can put all that pressure.
Yeah, that was brutal.
Yeah, he's gonna have to push back into me eventually. And then I can, and if not, it'll just tap from there, you know?
Yes, sir.
Push that maximum pressure to really make them freak out on bottom and or tap. You have to have this closed off before you get the armpit grip, okay? Because I want to take away all that space, and then now, like, this is a really good bundle. Notice how there's connection between his ear and his shoulder. You have to have that before you start putting pressure, okay? And now we can really drive into him. Now, with this frame, don't forget to drive back into his wrist, okay? If I drive more into his elbow, structurally, right, I'm driving into the bone of his arm here, and that's not going to really bend his arm at all. The higher I'm up on his wrist, the more I can kind of put pressure into his tricep, right? And he's going to resist back into me, and that's when I can kind of release that tension, and then, you know, his arm will clear out of the way. But if I'm just driving into his elbow here, he doesn't even have to really resist to keep me up, right? But here he has to really resist to push back into me, and that's when I can clear that, okay? Now, if you want to block the hip, the knee goes over, you can. Once we mount, we're going to go arm triangle finish first. We're not going to spend a whole lot of time here because I know a lot of people have seen an arm triangle before. The way I do it's a little bit different. So we will talk about how I like to do it, but we're going to also talk about if you can't finish our next transition, which is the back take, okay? So first things first, with the triangle choke, how do you choke your partner? A regular triangle. It's their shoulder and like the back of your hamstring and or thigh, right? You're not choking them just with your legs. Their arm is doing a lot of the work. It's their shoulder, right? So same thing with our regular arm triangle. A lot of people try to do the arm triangle here. His shoulder is pretty far away from his ear. I'm trying to make that same connection that I was talking about earlier with the shoulder pressure. So I need to get that, right? I need to get his ear to his shoulder. So I need to get his shoulder in the choke. So something I like to do is now bring my ear up to the back of his elbow, kind of pull him to his side a little bit. That gives me a little bit of some access below his shoulder for me to pull my hands down. Right? So then now I can start adjusting, and now notice his shoulder is over here. It's in the choke, right? Versus being out of the choke, because everything on this side is in the choke. Right now, just his bicep, elbow, and head is in the choke. I need his shoulder in the choke, okay? So that adjustment I'm gonna make is pull him to his side, hands down, and then I'm gonna ratchet my head down too. So my head's gonna come kind of down where I'm looking at my hands, and I'm gonna slide my head back up. When I do that, I need my head close to the mat, because if I'm here, he can turn back into me and drop his arm down, and then now I'm kind of behind. So when I'm here, I'm putting pressure, so you can't do that now, and it's a quick adjustment, okay? So then now he's not gonna drop that arm down, because I'm circling my head to his head, and I use my elbow wide. That way I have a base over here. Because I'm not going to dismount, I'm going to try to finish this from mount. If I dismount, I actually give him an advantage of reaching down to his near side leg, so the leg closest to us. He can reach down, and he can hug his own leg, lock his hands together. He can extend his leg and use that to turn himself to his side and free himself from the choke. Yeah, my back takes here, but I lost the choke. If I'm in mount, he physically can't reach down, He physically can't reach down to his leg because I'm sitting on his lap, right? So when I get here, we're just gonna open that elbow, start dropping our hip down, and then we're just gonna finish from here, like a slow squeeze, okay? But remember, it's your head pushing their shoulder into their neck, not a squeeze of your bicep. Okay? I shouldn't really have to squeeze here at all. It's I'm using my head, driving his shoulder into his neck here. So my head's gotta drop down and circle, and then now I got a really tight finish on my arm triangle, okay? So to recap, we're here in side control. We walk everything up, get that armpit, pull him back. He's framing me, I'm driving into his wrist. I'm looking away and sprawling. When he pushes back too hard, I clear. If I want to block the hip, I can mount, lock my hands, pull him to his side and get my wrist down below his shoulder. That way I have his shoulder inside the choke. My head comes down and circle, elbows wide, hips sprawled on my toes. Sink my way down to get my finish on the arm triangle, okay? I know there's a lot of steps, so actually maybe let's get a few reps in before we move on to the back take, okay? Unless you give them like a cheesy wrist lock or if you cross your ankles, so you're pretty safe. And then also like they have to escape back to another bad position most of the time, and then now escape back to the neutral spot. If you have their back and they start escaping, likelihood of you landing in top mount or top side control is super high. Most times when someone escapes mount or side control, you normally land right back into a neutral spot. So that's why I like the back, because you have a good chance of getting the choke, but then also once they escape, or if they escape, you're still in a pretty good spot to maybe work back to the back and get another finish. So I'll have my partner here start on his back. We just got to our arm triangle. Now, not all the time can you finish the arm triangle, right? I'm sure it looked like most of you guys got the hang of it, but you know it still might be new to some of you guys, so you might not have a good time getting the finish. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take our hands and we're gonna switch them, okay? So I have this hand wrapped around his neck, this hand over here. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pull his head up, and I'm gonna put this hand out under this arm, grip his neck, and then pull his arm free. So now I just switched my arms, but I need to make sure that I'm not going over and pulling this hand out, I'm going under, okay? Because if I go over here, I'm a little bit high on his head can slip out and start losing it. So I like to go here. Just gotta roll my hand. So I have his shoulder, I take my hand, and I grab my own bicep. When I grab my own bicep, I take my elbow and I walk over my hand, and then now I hold his neck here, okay? So now I have a really tight bundle, and I can pull him to his side and use my knee to keep him wedged on his side here, okay? So as I pulled him to his side, my knee came behind his back. And I have this grip here where I can continue to pull my elbow off the floor to keep him from turning and facing me, okay? We're gonna have two different options for our chair sit from here. We're gonna have an option with the gift wrap and an option with the variation that I like to use if I can't get their wrist. So we had the arm triangle. We switched our arms by grabbing our bicep, rolling and getting their neck. We're gonna post and we're gonna pull our elbow off the floor, drive into his elbow with our neck and chest, and wedge our knee behind his back, okay? From here, I'm gonna use my hand to feed his wrist to my hand here, and this is an easy look at a gift wrap. Okay? I call this the gift wrap here, where I just have like a Kimura grip on his arm with his head involved. Once I have this, I like to extend both my arms. This will really help rock him to his side and give me a little bit of a base by posting off my wrist to bring my knee behind his head. You popped your wrist here.
No, you're fine.
Yeah.
Old man pop.
Once I'm here in like this technical mount, I have a really good shot at taking the back, but I'm too far from his chest. So we need to make some adjustments, okay? If you try to take their back from here, you're gonna be really low once you take their back. We're not gonna be set up for the finish right away. And I'm actually have you do this back take real quick. Go to the mount and get a gift wrap for me. And if he just pulls me from here, most of the time, if the guy knows what he's doing, I love using this escape. You just do like a squid push down the mat. So when he tries to push me, pull me, I just push, and then now we land here, okay? So now I'm laying on top of his bottom leg. He doesn't have a bottom hook. And now if I break this wrist, like I'm getting out. So we don't want to like pull them from here into our lap, because he just can beat that bottom hook, and then now I have to reset again, right? Or maybe lose it. So instead, what I want you guys to do is really get behind them with your chest. So see how my chest is now behind his back here? And I'm gonna pull him into like a chair. So instead of like pulling him into my lap like I'm the chair, I'm gonna make him sit up here. See how I wedge my knee behind his back? My foot is ideally hooking the far leg because it's gonna set me up for a body triangle. Now I know not everyone has the body type to lock up body triangles in here, so don't worry about it if you can't. But do try to maintain like that far hook on the leg. So we rock him to the side and get our chest behind his back. My chin goes down to his shoulder, and I try to maintain this contact the entire time I make him sit up. And then now we fall all the way to the far hip. And then now I got body triangle. Okay? And I go straight for my choke. Rather than dragging him across my lap and giving him that chance to beat my bottom hook. Okay? So when we're in the mount, we'll rotate this way. We had the arm triangle, bicep, neck. I rolled. I start pulling him to his side as my knee comes behind. Wedge for that gift wrap. Extend my arms. Knee comes up behind his head. Now I gotta adjust. Get here. Okay? I push off of this knee, pull up on his head, make him sit up. Knee wedges behind his back. Fall down to the far hip. Lock that body triangle. You already got a good grip on the arm. Go straight for your choke. You guys got it?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, 1, 2. Yeah. Transition from holding their neck, you get a post right here in the armpit. So I'm gonna get this post. I'm gonna kind of go elbow out, palm down. I'm gonna roll my arm because I want to be able to hook his armpit with this hand. Once I start kind of getting the position I want, I'll use that grip to kind of pull him into my lap for the back take. Okay. The other hand is gonna sneak underneath, and I'm gonna hold the shoulder. So I end up I have both of his shoulders. So once I switched, I couldn't get that wrist. Maybe he was resisting too much. So I just get that armpit and see how I really kind of twist and contort his neck. That forces him to go belly down, right? That kind of makes him want to turn to that direction. I hold this shoulder to keep him from turning all the way, because sometimes guys will like pull a fast one on you and they'll spin all the way through and you missed it. So if you hold that shoulder, if he tries to do that, he just gives you his back, right? Because I have kind of grips on both sides of his shoulders, so you can't really turn either way. Okay, so just let him kind of go to the direction I want. Now I get back to that same position, and I'm going to use these grips to pull him out of his back, so I can really pull and get that same back take, same body triangle, and same choke. But, so just add this variation now. We got to our arm triangle, we rolled, we got the neck, we're pulling him to his side from here as our knee wedges. And my hand comes underneath because I see that wrist is just not there. I use that to really make him turn down and get his shoulder. Adjust my hips, I get that armpit grip, and see I can like pick him up from here, all the way to the other side, and body triangle, and you go for that choke. You guys got it? Sweet, 1, 2. From where his feet are kind of touching together, I need to get my leg in between his legs, and this hand's free, so I can normally trap his ankle and then get my elbow in and start kind of forcing that half guard position we talked about. If I get to half guard, a lot of times I'll try to just kick him to side control. So I kind of just force that transition. I force him to go to side control, kind of get here, get my knee in, and then from here I can kind of kick him to side control, and then I get my leg. Okay, so notice already, like you can tell from here, like my voice was kind of starting to get choked. I was kind of choking a little bit. Go ahead and start choking me. Like I'm getting close to where I have to tap. Now I'm good. Notice like the pressure kind of freed up. Because look at the difference. Look at my ear. My shoulders are no longer connected. I'm no longer getting choked. The choke is that, right? So if I get my leg, I'll cross my ankles, I extend away, then I gotta get to my side. So I extend away, and I use my legs as like a pendulum to push my weight to that direction. So now look, there's no choke. The downside is he could lock up that thing that the Rotolers have been doing. Yeah. So like there's that Ezekiel, or there's the downside version, like you said. Yep. There's a lot of attacks in there, so I don't want to hang out here. But the nice thing is normally when I start to create that angle, he kind of turns the face at me a little bit, and that's when I can clear my arm back around his face. And I got an underhook here. So now it's all about getting my hips out, turning back in, and then now we're back in the scramble. Okay? So that's my number one arm triangle escape. I haven't been submitted in an arm triangle in forever because I've been using this escape. Just getting the leg, getting him to side control, getting my own leg, getting to my side, turning back in to get my arm back around his face. There is a timing thing though, because if I try to turn back into him while his head's still buried, I'm just going to sink myself back into the arm triangle, and I'll probably have to tap. So I have to wait till I feel him start to turn and face me, and then my arm can come back around. So it is a timing thing too. turn back in with that underhook, and now you can start getting out. So that's my favorite way to escape the arm triangle, so feel free to get some reps on that. Both of his hands, I like to roll them with my thumbs down, get access to the inside, because I need to lock around his waist. Personally, I like to trap an arm too. I like to trap an arm that I'm going to, just to like give him a little bit of an issue to deal with. That way, like as I'm passing him, he's worried about taking his arm free, and then I'm already a few steps ahead. So I like to like bring my head under his chin, lock over one of his arms, and if he's really big, I'll go S grip, because I might not be able to lock my arms, because S grip gives me the most length in my arms. Gable grip will give me a little less length. Wrist to wrist is going to give me like the least amount of space in the lock. Whereas like S grip, you can see the difference, right? So probably with like our body types, I'm going to go by body lock or wrist to wrist. I'm going to pull him to his side though, okay? So what most people do wrong with the body lock is they kind of go to like more of a neutral position, less of like a dominant position. They put them flat. So if I go here, I'm not really in a great spot to pass. He has a really good chance of framing my face and pushing me down his body and causing all this stress, and maybe even freeing his foot and going for like an omoplata, right? So this could happen, especially against those 10th planet guys. You don't want them to be flat. You gotta have them on their side. So whenever we get here, I'm holding this side. Notice my head under his chin, right? I'm not way down here, good? I'm here, this will be much harder for him to frame me. Now I need to release the top leg and trap the bottom leg, so I get here. So now I have his shin across my hips. So this is where I need, so that I can step over that knee. So I have my grips here. He's on his side, and now look, if he's flat, look how high his knee is off the ground. Really hard for me to step over it, right? He's on his side, it's right there for me to step over, okay? Once I step over, it's all about just looking the other way, flattening him out, kind of breaking his back over my grip, and then I can just walk, back step. So now I'm inside control, but I'm behind his hips. So notice when we talked about like this, he can't turn and face me. He also can't turn and face me here. So that's what I'm kind of doing the opposite. I'm not high on his body yet. I don't have a cross face, so I'm using this to keep him from turning and facing me. I wouldn't want to like have a body lock and go this way, because then now he's going to keep turning and facing me, and it's easier to come in, right? That's why I like the knee cut too. If I go knee cut, I don't want to do this big baseball slide where I create a bunch of space. I typically would want to like walk back to his hips. So it's the same thing from there. So one more time. Pull him to the side, release top leg, trap bottom leg, flatten him out, walk, back step, settle on the hips. So that's my body lock that I like to do. Let's just probably call it there, do another question. We can always go back into that if you want. Sure. Who wants to back? It's really hard for him to pass. I have lasso. If he tries to pass to this side, I have like this frame that can keep him from like passing. I can reset. I can throw a lasso in to keep him from passing this side. I can guard retain really easily with just one grip. Now Noki, if I'm on my back, go ahead and break that grip. Don't have it anymore. Now I can't follow him. It's really hard for me to like maintain a good defensive guard being flat on my back. So I don't like necessarily playing without connection on my back. So if I'm here, I'm looking to create distance and sit up, okay? Look for connection, and then now maybe get into like more of a on my back position, but now I have connection. So now it doesn't matter. Now I can sweep it, all right? I can get into attacks and things. Personally, when I'm playing guard, when I'm on my back, I need connection. If I don't have connection, I need to like sit back up to a neutral position, because now from here, I can follow him. If he tries to circle from side to side, I have like a hook on the inside of his leg. I can move around really easy from here, right? I can scoot back, scoot forward, side to side. Whereas on my back, I'm pretty stationary. I'm kind of stuck. So I need to like get away from him, and then now I can re-engage, look for control, look to get into like my positions, and maybe start sweeping or attacking. So that would be kind of like a general rule I would try to apply to your newbie guard. Get those grips before you lay down. If they break them, sit back up. Good questions. Yeah.
But with wrestling becoming more a part of Noki, you're seeing a lot more guys bailing to turtle. What's your favorite way to break down turtle when you're on the top position?
Great point. We actually didn't go over that today. I wanted to. I think this is also because of ADCC. ADCC becoming so popular with the opens and the trials, and the rule says if I take you down in the turtle, no points. I have to have you on your back to score. So a lot of guys have been turtling lately. So we actually do a lot of rounds from top turtle. So that'd be like my number one thing I'd suggest. Start here in rolls. All right, guys, we're just gonna start here. if I select you sub me or whatever, we'll just reset and now you on top. And just get rounds from here, because most of the time when you're trying to work on something new, you need the reps. And if you just start an open roll, the likelihood of you landing in that position and getting to work on it, it's probably gonna happen maybe 1 or 2 times, right? But if you start there every single time, you get multiple reps per round, you're more likely to get better at what you're trying to work on. So from turtle, I like to have body lock, personally, until I start splitting his base here, okay? Then I maybe will start going seatbelt. But for now, body lock's gonna be a lot safer for me, because if he starts trying to work to his feet and kind of quad potting from here, getting all the way up to his feet, I can, drag him back down pretty easily. I can also like risk just jumping over the top and getting hooks, because I'm not gonna slide off since I have double unders. If I have seatbelt and I try to like just jump, I'm probably gonna like fall off, right? Because I don't have like both of those stoppers on this armpit to keep me from sliding. So body lock's gonna be my main kind of goal from here until I get this split. So once I get this split with my knee, if I'm having a hard time creating that split, I can use my elbow with that body lock to kind of open things up and get my knee in there, okay? Now, I want my hips as tight to his hips as possible, and I want to get his butt off of his heels. So that's where that body lock still comes in handy. Driving him forward to get his butt off his heels, and I'm going to scoop his back leg and touch my knee to my foot together. The closer I can make that connection, the more likely I'm going to get the back take. A lot of guys try to like peel their foot open here. This doesn't work as well. He can limp leg out. I need to close that connection off. Once I'm here, this is when I'll start getting additional control, like a seat belt or like a cross wrist. Personally, I like holding this wrist for now. If I can get it in and get the cross wrist, that's great for me, because then I can start looking to like set up my choke as I'm taking the back. We're falling to this direction, and notice that connection I have. If I was low on his ankle, his knee would slip out. See, he got his leg free. If I'm here, going, can't get his leg free, I can put bottom hook in first, which when taking the back, bottom hook is most important, right? You need that bottom hook. So once I get my bottom hook in, I'm gonna short my hips out to center to his back, and I'm gonna trap that top hip, okay? Reason why I need to do this, since I have cross wrist, this can stop him from spinning away a little bit, right? But his hips can still turn. So he can still start turning. I need to trap that hip, because I don't have my hook in yet. So my knee needs to clamp over top of his hip, not behind his hip. From behind his hip, he can still turn, right? From over his hip, turn, he's locked down, right? So my knees are clamping here, and I still have that cross wrist. A lot of times you can just get that choke from here, right? Especially if you're across their face, because if I'm across his face, he can't turn that way, right? The same thing with side control. If he's not looking, he can't turn, right? So if I make him look this way, he can't turn that way anymore. So I can get this really brutal face crunch and get my finish from there. Unless maybe I lock my hands or something, I can just bridge in and stretch him out, and then now my hook can go in. So a lot of times the things that you'll struggle from here is they stay really kind of balled up. They kind of bring your knee to your chest. Yeah, and I can't get my hook in. Just clamp, lock your hands together, bridge, and then now your hook can go in. And then you can, set up your choke. So personally, when I take the back, it's got body lock, split the knee, get that ankle, start pulling him down. I like to get that cross wrist. I get my seatbelt as we fall, and then I get my hips behind his, and I start clamping that hip. Once I'm here, you can threaten that choke if you want. I like going over the face if you can. If not, just stretch him out and get that hook in. We can always start looking to set up our body triangle and then get our choke in. So that's personally how I like taking the back. It's really simple, but it works. One of these at all my seminars is just punch the shoulder, pick up the foot, get him down. He favors the hip. That's the hip I'm going to initially pass to. Hand on the knee, hand on the hip, head drops. So I get here, right? So if I can get my hand to my head to my hand, I can start putting a lot of weight on him and make it harder for him to maintain this elbow to knee, right? So if I cut that angle, now I'm at an angle to where like it's kind of exhausting for him to maintain frames and keep me from passing, because go ahead and keep me from passing, right? See how it's really tired from him from here? So like if he does end up pushing me away with a high leg, like throw your leg over, get your foot on my shoulder, push me away, I'm just kind of like doing it again, and then I'm passing around the back, I'm just changing sides, right? If I get my head to the inside here, he can't high leg. So that's the main reason why I like dropping my head. So if you get your head to the inside, you can't high leg. Now, if you go to get your head to the inside and they're framing really hard, we can pass the north-south by dropping your hand to the mat and your other hand wide, and that's not the north-south. So these are drills that I like to work where I'll literally just push my partner down, hand to the inside, circle, come back. Circle, head comes down, dropping my head, and I'm changing sides. And then maybe I get here and he frames me hard, hand drops, circle to north south. Hand drops, circle to north south. Cut my angle, hand drops, circle to north south. So what the two drills basically are just hand to the knee, hand to the hip, head drops. If I can't get there, then my hand drops instead of my head. My other hand goes wide, and then my head drops as I circle. So those are some passes you can kind of work on as drills to get like good exercise in, good warm-ups, and just develop good like movement on top.
And that's like outside passing is just constant back and forth, like
Yeah.
going from side to side, right?
Well, put it in a position that they're having to like activate and use their core, keep their knees to their chest, because that's gonna tire them out. And eventually, like now, because there's no connection anymore. They're no longer staying here because they're tired. They're kicking you off.
Now it's open.
They're kicking you off. Get off. And then finally, they kick you off of them, and you're dropping on bottom. And now you're in a good spot. Start pressure passing them and working back into what we were doing. They're already cooked. They're already tired.
Beautiful.
Owen Flanagan versus Andrew's a great example of that, because Owen Flanagan's one of the strongest guard players there is, and Andrew passed like butter because he just simply tired him out.
Yeah, that's what I love about it. Is there any position he's going to prompt you as you're coming around to do low hips and posture passing? I know you knee cuts and stuff. Not that you would need to, but is there anything where they're going to force you to want to do that? Or is that just a strategy you're away from?
Personally, lately the game is like,
Pressure.
for guard players, is wrestle up or leg lock. What else can you do from your back and doki, right? You have to wrestle up or leg lock. It's really hard to bear ball unless you're Levi Jones. It's really hard to like triangle or armbar from your back. Everything's so slippery. So you either wrestle up or leg lock. So as a defensive standpoint, what do I do to stop wrestling? Well, we talked about the 3 defensive points. Hands, head, hips, right? So I don't want to lead with my hips. Lead with your head and hands. So when I'm passing, I'm always here, right? I'm never coming in like this. Even if he's on his back, I'm not coming in like this. Still here. That way I'm keeping him from getting to my legs for leg locks or wrestle ups, right? So if I can kind of shut it down before it happens, that's gonna be your best case scenario.
Right, that's why the key is way different. You got all these leg grips and
Yeah,
you can pull
I can
through.
use a sleeve to like pull them off the ground and pass.
okay.
But you can't really do that in Nogi, right? You gotta pressure flatten them out. So for me, it's head down. Because like, if my head is a wedge between him and my legs, he'll never get to my legs, right? Like if we're here, scoop this leg for a leg lock, right? Scoop that leg for a leg lock. He's not getting there. Look, like, scoop my leg. I really try. He's not going to, you know?
Be like that.
My head's
Why
like
give him
down.
your legs? Yeah, why give him your legs to start off with?
Yeah, so I would say leading with your hips, not necessarily the best idea. I'm not going to say that don't do it, because I am kind of a firm believer in there shouldn't be rules for jiu-jitsu. You should kind of like have your own flow, have your own techniques and stuff. And when people start implementing like this is a set rule, then it kind of limits creativity. So I'm not going to say don't lead with your hips, because Hanato Kamuto does this. You know, when you pass these guys guard like that, that's leading with your hips. I would just say, as like a basic standpoint, use your head, keep them from getting to your legs.
Thank you.
Good question. There are a lot of guys have a bad habit of reaching with their lead arm.
Yeah.
So I can kind of capitalize on that a lot of the time. That's why I feel like single leg works well in jiu-jitsu, because most guys have bad stances and bad habits. So there's a few different single legs you can go for, depending on which stance they're in. So if he's in a mirrored stance to me, so put that leg forward. If we're like in the same stance, I'm gonna always go high crotch. I'm always gonna go inside pull with my lead arm to like pull myself to his leg and get my takedown, whether it's on a double or a single, right? That's always gonna be my shot. And if he's the other way, for me it's always gonna be snatch single. So I'm just gonna be hitting like an outside step to get my grip on the leg. So there's a few different ways you can set these things up. You can set them up with like an elbow pass. When you get this elbow pass, he's gonna kind of try to turn and face you. And you can get your single leg. You saw J-Rod and I doing that to each other in the finals. He hit an elbow pass with me, I hit one on him. If he's reaching, it's a really good opportunity to kind of like check and step underneath. So a lot of times I'll like come in, I'll like tie up with them and kind of like keep this elbow tight but kind of reach. And I know they're gonna like reach all fake, like I'm gonna tie up with them, their hands come up, and then I come down and I get the snatch. So that's one that I really like to do. Instead of grabbing his leg and pulling it into you, it's best to load his weight to his back leg so his leg can come up easy. So that's something that I like to do. I like that inside pull. If he's that leg forward, I'll come inside pull myself to his leg, get my shot. If he's same side lead as me, then I'll kind of be tying up with him, moving him around, get his hands to come up, dive underneath him and get that single leg. And then I like to change the body lock when I can to get behind him. But however you like to finish.
You find yourself going to the body lock more so than trying to like snap them down, or
It's the same thing that I mentioned earlier. When you take guys down with lower body attacks, right? I'm not chest to chest. He might be able to scramble up and get to his feet. Whereas if I land on top of him, I can't. So if I get behind him with body lock, I have a good chance of holding him down, getting to his back like we worked today. So I will always pick a body lock over a single leg finish, but I'm always just going to take what I can get to. Because I can't get one or another.
for
You know.
sure. Yeah.
So, cool. I'll show you like the one that I think is like the most basic ready to finish I think everyone should learn, and one that I still use at the high level. It's just a pull across the far shoulder. I'm always looking for this grip. So anytime I can get here, I'm probably gonna choke somebody. So it doesn't really matter what side we're on. I would like to be on the choking side arm to make it easiest. So if we're here, I would be kind of like tuck a chin for me. You can kind of hand fight too. Yeah, so we're gonna be here, okay? So if he's hand fighting with this, basically the same size as my hand here, right? If he's reaching across his body to my wrist, I don't need to worry about this. I'll still lock it up and choke him, okay? And I'll explain how to lock it up in a second. It's this hand that I gotta worry about. If this hand either holds me here or holds me here, he can really pull this down off my shoulder and make it hard for me to finish. So what I'm gonna do is I'm always gonna control that hand with the underarm to get to the shoulder. And I don't care about this wrist. Now, if it's like Jessica going with one of our bigger guys over here, she probably will have to worry about him pulling that hand down still because there's a massive size difference, right? But like if you are somewhat in the same category as your other partner, if you get that grip behind their shoulder, he shouldn't really be able to pull your hand down, at least easily. And if he does, you guys need to lift more weights. So tuck your chin for me, we're here. Now, when I pull this hand out, that hand's no longer controlled, right? So it's gonna come up, and that's what I gotta worry about, because he's gonna pull my hand down now, right? And I lose it. So I'm gonna be ready for that. When I pull my hand out, I check that hand out of the way. Even if he grabs my wrist, I'm gonna punch it out of the way with like a thumb grip. So my thumb goes to the inside of his wrist, and I push it out of the way, and my hand goes to my bicep. So it changes from the shoulder to my bicep, and then my elbow comes back, and then hand comes through. So I end up kind of like locking my arm up like a gun.
Robocop.
Here, so I end up like extending my arm straight, kind of pulling it back to get my elbow bent, so I can go hand on top of my hand, elbow wide as my hand comes behind the back of his head, and then now I have my locked in ready to choke. The only thing that I really stress on people doing from here is put your chin over your wrist, okay? Most guys try to finish from here, and they can still pull your hand down. Go ahead and grab my fingers. Reach behind your head and grab my fingers. Yeah, you can pull my hand down, right? Go ahead and do that again. My chin is now locked my hand in place, okay? And again, this choke doesn't matter if it's over their face or not. Just make them look to the figure four. So if I'm here, and I was controlling this hand, and I pull it out, he reaches up to grab, and I don't care about that arm, right? That one I get out of the way, and then now I got my choke, lock it in and finish. That's my favorite way to finish when you can choke. If you're on the other side, here, there's a few things you can do. You can step off their hip and hit your arm bar. You can force them to the other direction, or you can hit this, and this is really good for body triangle, so try to lock that body triangle in. You can hit a similar finish. Go ahead and tuck your chin for me. Right here, I come up onto my elbow, and I lock my hands, and then I walk down the mat. So I don't tuck my elbow and fall. I kind of like walk like a duck walk, where you go from your toes to your knee. I do the same thing from my elbow to my shoulder. So see, I kind of like went down the mat. I extended him. So instead of like just falling in the same spot where he's gonna stay crunched up, I end up falling this way. And then now to finish, elbow just comes down, hips come through, and you can get your gable grip finish, which I do a lot as well. So it really depends on what side you're on. If you're on the choking side, again, still like body triangle. Fight the shoulder. He tucks his chin most of the time, right? I pull my hand out, and I can just lock it up from here if I want. But if he starts to bring his hand up, check out of the way, down the bicep, hand comes through, cinch everything up and finish. If you're on the other side, they stay the same. Hand punches across, elbow come up, lock your hand, walk to your shoulder, head goes to the mat, hips go through, elbow down, and you can get the finish from there. A lot of times, guys would be tapping there from the body.
So that one's like stupid tight.
Yeah,
Like when you
it's
start
so
to like
like
fall on that
driving
shoulder.
forward.
Oh.
Yeah, it hurts. So I
Well, no, it's all good. It's just from like roll today.
Yeah.
yeah.